Only volunteers get the fill. Empty promises is what they hear. No running water from year to year. Hearts that no one desire. That if there is a Messiah, someday he hear their whispered prayer. Covered on lesbian and scanty, 10 people in a one-bedroom shanty. Forced to sell on the pavement. No vacancy, no employment. Kettle fire cracker from gunshot. Blood just flow when things get hot. Afraid to look out the window. To hear voices from the ghetto. Crying, 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 Lord, Lord, crying, crying. Voices from the ghetto. Crying, 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 Lord, Lord, crying. Voices from the ghetto. Help us, Father. Lord. Mothers just hold their head on ball. And them woman stronger than a wall. A big pusher eyeing she daughter. Son in jail for manslaughter. Too bad for him, he a name bad boys. No bail, that's the black man's choice. Like Shadow say, poverty is hell. She little girl child belly start to swell. Some say life is a cycle, but the draw she no circle. Where will it all end? Only time to tell. Outside the siren keep howling, inside your belly will growling. Police raid very often. Simpson measuring a coffin. One night in bed you're sleeping. Next night is a wave that you're keeping. So you're praying to win the lotto, not to hear voices from the ghetto. Crying, 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 crying. Voices from the ghetto. Crying, Lord, crying. Voices from the ghetto. We are not a forgotten people. Hear our with dented pride, they soldier on. Revolutions, fake politicians born. And often their tragic story brings a journalist.
Good evening, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. My name is Jomo Thomas. The program you're about to listen to is called Voices. This is the Voices program for December 9th, 2024. We have a good program lined up for you tonight. For the first hour, we have Dr. Doris Frederick. She's the leader of the brand new political organization, the National Liberation Movement here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Good evening.
And so
everyone.
We hear from her, but as is normal, before we get to her, I would do as what I normally do. I would read my column for last week. It goes like this, and the column is called Heart Attacks and the Fire Sale of St. Vincent. Heart Attacks and the Fire Sale of St. Vincent. The announcement by the Health Minister Jimmy Prince that over 4,000 Vincentians died between 2021 and September 2024 should come as no surprise to anyone living here. The big surprise, however, just give me 1 second, let me get this right. Start over. think we having some problems, some internet issues.
Isn't she able to hear you?
Yes,
Excuse
I'm
me?
hearing. I'm hearing.
Are you hearing me?
Everybody's hearing
Yes, I'm
you.
hearing you loud. Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Just give me a second. I'll get you in a minute.
Okay.
Till there's only bitterness left inside. And every day is a hustle. Arguments are settled with muscle. Till you're 6 feet deep by 3 feet wide. Children to life keep on drifting.
I don't know what happened. I was reading my column and it just disappeared.
Oh,
It
I was
just dis-
actually seeing I was actually seeing you right through, so I don't know.
I don't know what happened either.
Okay.
Anyway, I think what we would do, we could always forego the column for this evening, and then maybe later on, if it comes up, we can bring it back when we get to the second hour. But Dr. Fredericks, thank you for coming in and joining us on Voices.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute delight to be here and to be greeting our nationals, to be greeting you, as well as, folks everywhere, non-nationals as well, I'm sure, are tuned in to this program tonight.
Wonderful. Quite a courageous move, I must say, to announce in the penultimate, at the close of the penultimate year before the next election, that you were going to go ahead and form a new political movement. And that movement is called the National Liberation Movement. But before we get there, tell us a little about
Yes.
yourself. Tell us a
Well,
little about yourself.
I'm originally from Vermont Village. Um, I am the mother of two adult sons, Mikhail Charles. Mikhail is living in the UK and working there. And my other son is Shivanev Charles. He's
Right.
married to Enika Danielle Joyet, and they're living in the United States. Um, Thereafter, having lived in Vermont, I ended up living in an area called Cane Grove in Buckermont Bay. And then I moved from there to Kittels. So when folks hear me say I'm from Kittels, it's because
That's where
my
you live now.
postbox, yes, I'm currently living here. I've made my home here.
Right. And but before you came back to St. Vincent, you were in the diplomatic corps, not so?
Yeah, yes, I was. From 2010 to 2017, I served as Deputy to our High Commissioner, Minister Counselor in the UK. So I was a foreign-based diplomat.
See. And what did that job entail?
Ooh, a lot of things, deputizing for the High Commissioner, His Excellency Senior Lewis, attendance at meetings that were more or less just spread all over, attendance at church services. I particularly remember, persons like myself would have what is known as delegated authority. So we would sit at the board of the Commonwealth Secretariat at Marlborough House. So constantly we will go to have meetings and everything that would have dealt specifically with the Commonwealth matters that touch and concern the Commonwealth. The International Maritime Organization. I would also be representing our government and people of that level, and so many other, too numerous to mention. So I spent those years doing just that on behalf of our government and on behalf of our people, I should say, because I was paid by the taxpayers of this country to do a job. And from all appearances, what they say about me in the main is that I have done an excellent job.
Wonderful. How was that job? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? And how did it come to an end?
Well, like everything else within the diplomatic code, there is the end of your tenure. So I was recalled to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I came back in 2017. I can't remember the exact date, but sometime in October 2017. And I was reassigned to the position of Deputy Director for Foreign Policy and Research within the same ministry, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Trade at that time. It was an exciting time. The only thing is that sometimes it was a bit cold, and I had to be well clad, of course, for climate within the climate that I served. But other than that, I did my very best on behalf of our people, my absolute best. And I am the individual that you're speaking to is that if I have to sleep somewhere in order to get the job done, my fellow colleagues will tell you that I will get the job done. And I've done that before, sleeping at the High Commission, making sure that you have things going on an even keel, So I've done my best.
So
I'm
you
not
enjoyed,
retired, by the way. I'm not retired.
you're retired now.
Yes, I am now retired. Yeah, I
Well, you look
retired
so
in
young,
2018. Yes,
you look so young to be a retiree, but
I had my birthday
I-
just my 61st birthday was on the 7th of December. And
oh,
along with members of my church, we had a little group of us, we had a blast. It was really nice,
wonderful.
Yeah.
You're youthing well.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So now tell us, so did you see yourself as a political appointee, or did you emerge in the diplomatic corps based on your studies and your work and so on?
I'll tell you this. At one of our meetings in the diaspora, I think it was in High Wycombe, somebody asked me that question, whether or not I was a political appointee. And to be fair, because my husband at the time was brought back to St. Vincent to run or to contest the Central Leeward seat, one could say that the motivation was political. And I want to say this, that if all I knew was a shovel and a hoe and a broom, and I do know what a shovel, a hoe, and a broom entails, if that was all that I knew, then something would have been radically wrong with the advice that was given to the services commissions to choose me as a replacement for the then Maxwell Charles. So he came back and I was there. So from that standpoint, the motivation was from a political standpoint. I also want to say this, that if I wasn't qualified
No,
academically,
I'm not questioning their qualification at all. I mean, people can be
okay,
very qualified, but then they get the job because of a political appointee. I mean, take for
right,
example, I became the Speaker of the Assembly.
right,
I I am convinced that I was very well qualified for the job, but had I
okay,
not contested the on the ULP's ticket in 2015, it
right.
may well be that I might not have gotten that job.
Yeah,
So
when look at it,
you can
yeah,
be qualified and still become a political appointee. But I
yes.
only that's neither here nor there. So tell us now, what motivated you to form the National Liberation Movement?
In previous to 2021, I had a sort of awakening. I will call it a spiritual awakening, having seen a lot of stuff from the other side. I was now sitting among,
When you say the other side, what do you mean?
I was now retired,
Okay.
and I was able to appreciate more fully persons, the way they display themselves in terms of their own livelihood and so on, and the way they would relate to me in the community. And I have not had that previously for persons to come to me and would cry out about the injustices, the levels of poverty, the unemployment, the levels of victimization that they claim that they were having. And those things, as a humanitarian, as someone who appreciates the fact that we are all human beings, and I feel for my brothers and sisters, I start thinking differently about this current administration and what could or couldn't happen. My own investigations led me to believe that things are, things were true based on what persons were saying. But after I sort of became quite radical in my approach at addressing certain issues, and I went out with my bell. Remember those days I was ringing this bell? And
Yes, I
in my
remember. I
head,
remember
yeah,
you.
in my head, it was a song that was saying, if I have a bell, I'll ring out danger, I'll ring out warning, I'll ring out love or ring in love between my brothers and my sisters all over the land. So that was my
Right.
motivation. It wasn't politics, you know. After that, persons gravitated towards me and they said, listen, I mean, you're actually standing up for us. You have had this training abroad. There was a gentleman by the name of Shaka. I will call his name because he's a public figure. He saved me from the Vermont River one day. And anytime Shaka speaks, we have a very good relationship over the years. Anytime he speaks, I would listen to him. And he said to me, Doris, we want you. And he was representing a group of persons. We want you to represent us because there is madness that is going on around us. And I said, okay. So we sat several meetings. We were held right here in my front porch and so on. And we got together and decided that a movement should be formed. It is the people who called me out of retirement. And I responded because
Right.
I believe I have a God-given sense to kind of hear what my brothers and sisters are saying.
Right.
And that kind of feel, it hurts me to know that my children, myself, now my ex-husband, and many of us would have been employed. Well, not my children, but many of us would have been employed by the state under this administration, and we should hear what others are saying. Some people say, oh, you benefited. I benefited in this sense that my salary was paid by the taxpayers of this country, and my first duty is owed to them. So the
Absolutely.
National Liberation Movement gained momentum in 2022, and this emerged out of a felt need among many who to this day, for several reasons, they remain dispossessed and disadvantaged in our society.
Oh, you
I
said
feel,
you said you said that your movement gained momentum in
yeah.
2022. How did that momentum manifest itself?
Well, we would have had an outlet for our voice, which is on another radio platform. We call ourselves Bell the Nation. Of
Right.
course, using that, connect from the days of the bell. And
Yes.
I have a co-host who is based abroad, and together we would sit and we would discuss a number of issues. And the reach was very far, all over the place, even Africa. So the
Right.
Western states and so folks were saying, wait a minute, this is really needed. And a
Right.
number of calls came in, a number of um, text messages. People were more sending text messages than they were actually calling us because there is this fear. I don't know what that is about. Fear of hearing your voice on the radio. Somebody actually called someone in Barbados to tell them what to say to us. I beg your pardon. I'm still struggling with a little cold. Um, are you hearing me? Yes.
Yes. Yes, I'm hearing you clearly. If I don't
Yes.
ever hear you, I will tell you.
Okay, yeah, something just flashed across my screen. Yes, so that was the thing that we were able to articulate a number of things. Many were afraid to talk openly, fear victimization of relatives if they tell their stories publicly, and so on. But we provided a platform or an avenue to which persons would speak their truth and their lived experiences. So that's what we were about until we
Right.
were taken off radio a year ago.
Yeah. One of the
And
listeners want to know if the Shaka you talk about is someone many of us may know as Bongo Shaka.
I wonder if Bongo Shaka he is Gregory Edwards. That is his proper name. And he came from an area called Meriki. That's not too far from me here.
Okay, so
So
I
yeah,
don't think it's the same person.
it's the same person. Okay.
I don't
Yes.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Okay.
Anyway,
He's with the Black Lion. He's with the Black Lion community. of the Rastafarian movement. Yes. So when you see
Yeah,
me, I think I'm one of those. You don't have to be dreaded to be Rasta.
that's what Morgan Heritage told us. I do believe that. I do believe
Sorry.
that.
Yeah, our diet is basically the same. I don't eat meat, I eat fish. Some
Right.
Rastas eat meat, I understand. But you know what I'm saying, so
Yeah, yeah,
generally that's what
understand clearly. So have you registered this political movement?
registration of a political movement is a no in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What we found is that we've been calling, asking questions because you're really putting me in the hot spot here. Um, The Attorney General's office, before this current Attorney General, gave instructions about registration. And we followed through on that. But of course, my research was leading in another direction until when we insisted on being accepted, we found that the response from the current Attorney General led in a totally different direction. And so
So
no party in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as far as the literature we received, is registered. None. And so that speaks volumes. What the representation of the People's Act says is that you continue as is, as a group of concerned citizens, and you are taken seriously on nomination day as an established party. We were
eh,
led to believe that Barbados has a particular view, as well as Jamaica. As a matter of fact, redirection was even through that letter that we received from the Attorney General's office. The redirection was given to the supervisor of elections as to how she should take this matter about registration. So we are mindful of that. So no political parties registered in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
okay, thank you for that. I'm not so sure that
Well, I
I
can
al
read
I,
I
I
could
I
read the
always
letter to you.
no, I'm not doubting you in the least. I'm just saying
Okay.
that I thought that like
Yeah.
the St. Vincent Labour Party, the Unity Labour Party, the People's Political Party before that, Democratic Freedom Movement, United People's Movement, New Democratic Party, the Unity Labour Party. Now, I thought all of these were registered parties,
No,
but here
sir.
you are telling me that they're not. So,
Not
so
one of
I
them.
could not. So you are saying to me that I could not go down to SIPO tomorrow and say I want to register the People's Movement for Change.
No, because based on the response we receive from the Attorney General's office, that is what they're saying.
Okay. So I think she's frozen.
Hello, are you there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were frozen. You were frozen for a minute. So the last thing we heard, based on the response we got from the Attorney General office. So you can pick it up from
Yeah,
there.
the 13th of the 7th, 2023, the National Liberation Movement, creation of a political party. SIPO, of course, comes with or under the remit of the Companies Act 1994. They gave the definition of what is a non-profit company as every company without share capital and so on. And further to section 515, it indicates that the name of a company shall not suggest or imply a connection with a political party or a leader of a political party. This therefore means that applying for the incorporation of a non-profit corporation under Part 3, Division A of the Companies Act is not the appropriate procedure contemplated by the lawmakers to become a political party in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And they went on to tell us that political parties emerged prior to independence when political movements began to demand greater autonomy and self-determination. That was taken from Gilad James, PhD, Introduction to St. Vincent. by way of custom, the recognition of a group capable of contesting a general election typically came through participation in electoral processes and gaining a certain level of support. Therefore, there appears to be no specific legislative process for becoming a political party in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I can go on and on.
No, no,
Um,
it's not
you
necessary
know,
for you to go on.
right.
Thank you for that discourse. I'm sure a lot of our listeners may not have known that. Like I said, I always thought that these are the
Yeah.
organizations who are registered political parties.
No, no, that's
Um,
registered. That's one. Mm-hmm.
so, in terms of the new, have you actually had an official launching
The official launching is going to be next Monday, the
next Monday?
16th, yeah, the 16th of December. And we are going to be doing it as a press conference, very close to where my yard is in this area.
I see, December
Yeah.
16th, and that's in Kittels.
Right, that's hospital. Yeah.
So at this press launching, what can we expect?
A number of things. You're going to meet other members of the group. We have a central committee, so there are some that are abroad, but some are here. You're also going to get a taste of what is actually in our manifesto. Um, and so you're going to vision statement. You're going to be looking at our mission statement, our core values. Well, I think I could touch on these: loyalty, meritocracy, pragmatism, integrity, accountability, transparency, and equity. Our tagline is "Together we will." And if you notice, my jacket here is supposed to be representative of our color, which is burnt orange, and the positive um, elements of orange, the burnt color, symbolizes warmth, comfort, togetherness, youthfulness, security, relaxation, happiness, prosperity. So similar to some Eastern cultures, the NLM recognizes that our color can represent happiness and prosperity. And this is where we are striving to achieve, what we are striving to
Uh,
achieve among our fellow nationals. And I'm not saying like everybody would be happy-go-lucky, don't get me wrong, but we recognize that there is a sense of hopelessness among many of our nationals, and we want to bring an added dimension that is diverse, that is more positive towards our development as a people here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Winston, you can be sure we would get there.
By God's grace. Our symbol,
So,
our symbol is the bicycle, and
oh, yeah,
one of
okay, so
the
you've been,
yeah, one of
yes,
the
yes,
choices, because one of the choices we had from the RPA, that is the Representation of the People's Act, Schedule Form 8, Rule, I think it's Rule 8, I think it's Form 8, Rule 8 or Rule 15, but permitted symbols. So you get to that section, I beg your pardon, Part A, symbols for candidates representing political parties, and we were guided to the last two remaining choices. One was a car, and the other was a bicycle. And our movement chose the bicycle instead of the car. For
very
a number
well.
of reasons, so
So there's
we have 10 reasons. So those would be well articulated in at that time.
right. So is there a particular ideology which the National Liberation Movement subscribes to?
We are emulating liberation theorists. We read quite a bit about Leopoldo Zia and Augusto
Did you
Salazar
hear?
Bondi from Latin America, the Latin American context.
Oh, so you
Um,
you all are
oh,
looking for
hold
for
on,
liberation
hold on.
theology?
Liberation theologists or
Interesting.
theology. And also, we
So
borrowed also from the other side of the world, which is Kwame Nkrumah, who led Ghana to independence and
Yes, yes.
undoubtedly contributed to the African decolonization campaign. We borrowed
Right.
from the Kenya emergency, they call it what, the Mau Mau. We borrowed
Yes.
from the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola and SWAPO Party of Namibia and Zimbabwe African National Union. So there are themes that help us to
Mm-hmm.
understand what really,
Right.
should substantially form who we are as a liberation movement.
Right.
You know.
If you were to think about one idea or one person, who would you say had the greatest influence on your own formation and your idea as to what St. Vincent should be like?
It's a difficult, it's really a difficult thing for me to say one individual,
Well, you can give us
because
a group of individuals or a group of ideas.
it's, to me, it's not one single individual really impacted me sufficiently to the point that, okay, I wanted to follow or wanted to emulate that particular person.
Mm,
So it's a number of persons over the years who would have contributed to my own thinking about politics and so on. All of our leaders previously, all of them, our political leaders, have within them, from their genesis, a thrust towards improvement of the conditions, living conditions within St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So
right.
from that standpoint, you're borrowing from a little piece of everybody. But to say a particular leader,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. Um, Now, number of people want to race us along, so I'll ask
Yes,
you. So
okay.
well, let me ask the question differently. Does the National Liberation Movement have an intention to contest the next election whenever it's called?
Yes, we do. And that is the idea. That is the idea behind us coming on stage at this time. We have been more or less like, below radar for a little while, talking, meeting with persons within our communities, in a rum shop here, by a tree there, and so on. Yeah, we have intention of coming forward. But I
Wonderful.
must hasten to add that we do not yet have all the candidates, because
Right.
before us there are persons, leaders, who would have launched with 4 candidates. And
Mm,
tomorrow I will also be speaking with others who have shown interest.
right.
So yes, but we are launching.
As it stands now, do you have an idea as to how many, if the elections were to be called, let's say, if nomination day were December 21st, let's say. Well, let's say December 28th, because
Okay.
you have to give 21. December
21.
30th, you have to give 21 full
I
days.
beg your pardon. Uh-huh.
How many candidates you would think that you would launch?
Well, we certainly have on the books more than what a previous leader would have launched with. The previous leader would have launched with 4. And we certainly have more than that
More
on
than
the
four.
books.
So you're
Yeah,
well on
yeah,
your way.
yeah.
Wonderful. And in terms of the composition of your party, is it a youthful party? Is it a party of more mature and older persons? Is it a party that is predominantly youthful? Is it a party that, well, let me not ask you so many questions in one. What's the composition of your party?
We are hoping to have the right mix that would respond to what we are hearing on the ground. And the right mix should be the middle of the ground, where we have a few more females. I don't want to show everything in the open as yet, but we will see. We will see. Yeah, because
What would,
we're still vetting quite a few people.
right, what would you say is the right mix? You said you want to have the right mix. What do you perceive the right mix is?
Youthful faces, much more than this old face here. I'm 61 people. I'm not 27 anymore. I just make joke with that. Um, Males, and males and females, and a youth, probably 3, 4 youths beyond the age of 21 would be able to hold office. But we will see, because we still, we are still in discussion mode.
Oh, understood, understood. You're still very youthful. Desiree Jack wants to know, what are the core values and principles of your party? Not just the words, but how do you flesh them out?
Okay. While this program here may not give us the opportunity to flesh out everything, we have loyalty, we have meritocracy, we have pragmatism. Let me pull out integrity.
Yes.
We recognize that integrity legislation has been on the books. Well, not proposed, I should say. And this whole sense of not holding our leaders accountable to their actions or inactions, especially around their political integrity, to us as a nation. Those are key things that we will harp upon, and to help us to understand how this is going to be possible. Integrity legislation comes under that particular value of integrity as one of our core values.
Right. How do you respond to the Prime Minister's view that you have laws now that adequately allows for the investigation, charge, trial of persons engaging in corrupt practices, and consequently we don't need integrity legislation as they had promised back in 2000 and 2001?
On the books, we may have those laws, but in terms of implementation, you know what I am seeing? There are several caveats, there are several prohibitions still that are thrown in the way of the judiciary. I don't want to hit at the judiciary to say that they are not independent. But what you find happening is that you have laws. People talk about them. Let's take, for example, you have this gentleman by the name of Mr. John, who, of course, that case was well articulated. And yet, what has happened to him? And what has happened to those persons who walked in, who trespassed on his premises? We had the laws, yes. But what has
But
happened?
they were tried and found not guilty.
Yeah. And who actually tried them?
The
I mean,
state.
we could open the debate. We can open the debate.
The state tried them.
I remember when my father was alive, John Baylis Frederick. I remember when he was alive, he and I had that debate in the porch, and he made some observations. I don't want to call anybody interfering in the judicial process. But there is something wrong when you can't get justice in a land where we're supposed to have justice being done.
Well, if you bring a case and the case is ventilated and the magistrate is not convinced that you articulated a sufficiently convincing case, would you say that you did not get justice because you lose? Or conversely, would you say the only way you can get justice is if you win?
It's debatable,
So I want you to debate it for the audience.
It's debatable. So that the issue is, if I shoot somebody and I am supposed to be Doris Williams, Doris Frederick, it depends. Sometimes it depends on who I am. I may get off. Well, let another man try something. I am seeing there are twists and turns within the system, the judiciary, within the delivery of justice, and that can't be right. To me, every man must stand before the law of this country and decide and be properly tried. Nor my, I'm not questioning the sense of justice, the delivery of justice from our judges. But I'm just saying that there's something wrong within the judicial system when we, the common people, and I again count myself that way, would look on and it doesn't appear that justice is being done. You know, and people have all sorts of comments to say. I normally look at the officials bystander. I realize and sit and listen to their own common sense approach towards the delivery of justice in this country.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's debatable.
Okay. And if you were to play a prominent role in any future government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, how would you attempt to turn that reality around, that reality that you just described?
Yes, okay, we are here again. Yeah.
I was saying, if you were to play a prominent role in any future government, how would you, what policies, what programs, what ideas would you put in place to turn that reality around where justice seemed to be elusive to some people, but is more accessible to others?
One of the things I think is needed in our country is a review of a whole heap of things, a review of the judiciary system, a judiciary, a review of the way we process cases, the selection of our judges and magistrates, um, the independence of the judiciary, the whole matter of allowing them to, when I say them, the judiciary, to do its part in away from political interference.
But
It is my
where is it?
personal.
You see, you're speaking in very broad terms. Do
I
you have
am.
any? Do you have any way of identifying political interference in the judiciary in St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
I tend to avoid those questions or give a specific answer. I'll tell you why.
But you see, the
Oh,
difficulty. I mean, you may get away with that in another radio program,
yes,
but you can't do
I
that
hear
because you
you. I
can't.
hear you.
What you
But
can do, what you can do on voices is to
yes,
toss something into the atmosphere and not be
right.
able to defend and justify it. If you tell
No,
us here on
it's not a
voices,
matter of defend and justify. It's matter of defend and justify is this.
if you tell us here
Choosing,
on
hold on.
voices that the sky is falling, we're gonna
Yes,
ask you to show us how this why you say the sky is
yes.
falling.
And I agree. I agree. This whole matter of justice in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as I say, has to be interpreted within the context of all these cases that we are hearing, mishandling of this information, not posting this in time and so on. So
Right.
for Doris to come and sit and say, this is going to be done this way, I need a committee in place to review and assess, yes, and reassess exactly what is happening, because there's people out there that are saying that justice isn't being done to them. It's not just Doris saying that, because nobody locked me up. You understand? Nobody locked me up, nobody beat me up and so on. By the way, they threatened to kill me, but that's for another forum. And here's the other thing too. Even those threats, when I report them, a particular gentleman wrote back and he said, "You always call me name police, police. Don't you know that to the police? Don't you know that the police is actually working for me?" That's a whole new ball game. So I say each case must be assessed on its own merit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But a committee has to be in place to review what is actually happening,
Patricia Ballantyne is saying here, this is exciting news. Finally, someone who offers a worthwhile alternative to the Unity Labour Party. And Marilyn Ballantyne is offering congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But here's a question from Fleek Mentalis. He says, if you were to be elected in government, what are the party's plans for getting funds to develop and run the country?
Now, what we have done, we did things a little bit different. Every constituency has been through what is known as a SWOT analysis. I will take a case in point from North Leeward, because you see, having done that SWOT analysis, we recognize what the boundaries.
Before you go forward, for those persons who are listening who may not know, tell us, what is a SWOT analysis?
Okay, the strengths, the weaknesses, and the opportunities and threats that exist within a particular constituency. So we have the North Leeward business environment. We were assisted by our technical team to get this on board. And
Right.
therefore, we have the strengths, we have the weaknesses, we
Right.
have the opportunities and threats that were outlined. What we are hoping is that we are going to have town councils and local government that will assist with the reallocation of resources within the confines of these various SWOT analyses that we would have done throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But let me give you a little taste of North Leeward and its strengths. The constituency size is 20% of the country, or 1/5, spanning 9 communities, namely Richmond, Fitzhugh, Chateaubelair, Pettibodale, Rosebank, Trimuka, Rosehall, Cumberland, Spring Village, Belle Isle, Hill. Within that constituency, there's a control of over 25% of the water supply in St. Vincent. The energy supply, 2 hydro power plants in Fitzhugh and Cumberland, producing 20% of the energy needs of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There is rich volcanic agricultural soils. There's the mild temperatures of 1,200 feet above sea level within Rosehall and Trimuka. Community tourism advantages, beachfront villages. Official port of entry, of course, is Chateaubelair. 20 miles from closest neighbor, the northern neighbor and northern Caribbean. 15 minutes by air, which is like roughly what, how many minutes by sea? I make that out right now, 40 minutes by sea, something like that.
But I mean, clearly,
Mhm.
Dr. Fredericks, clearly you have done some work, but that's not the question. You're not responding to the question that Fleek asked. Fleek is asking, I'll repeat the question again. If you were to be elected in government, what are the party plans to get funds to develop and run the country? Yeah, you have an understanding of what's happening in the country, as you were demonstrating with giving the example of North Leeward. But how are you going to get funds to do all the things you want to do?
One area is that we have got to get people back to work. And in working our farms, because we are an agriculture-based economy, working our farms and making sure that we develop our industries, then we are going to be able to see a turnover of our revenue. Yes, we also would have to do what is known as based on our disaster plan, we will have to do what is known as a comprehensive review, putting in place our recovery plan and pulling out all the stops, making sure that we do what is known as a forensic audit on the amount of monies that are supposed to still be in the coffers of this country, over $130 million lying down someplace, and our
130 million. Where do you get that number from?
Not pull out of our hats. We follow the news carefully, and we recognize that there are several entities that would have, several countries that would have granted loans to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Every time the Honorable Prime Minister and others go abroad and they come back, they will report to us what they got, not in their individual names, you know. They got those monies as a result of being our representatives.
And
And therefore,
are you saying that they got the money in loans and grants and they're not spending it?
that is what I'm saying, because the Public Accounts Committee that's supposed to be headed as chairman, according to our news, supposed to
Constitution.
be thing by the opposition leader. Nobody's given an account for those monies. So naturally, we have come to the conclusion that monies are here awaiting the proper distribution and allocation to the various plans that they have. So that is what we are going to be doing, assessing what it is that we have in store still to continue with some of the projects that are here. I also want to say that the civil service in this country, that is composed of well-meaning individuals. The majority of civil servants are really working exceptionally hard. They are the ones who are the vehicle for change. We have several government ministers who are lawyers, but in that civil service, we have economists who understand the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who will help us to drive the process forward. So that's all I'm saying. We have to do an assessment, get the amount of monies that are supposed to still be, it's plenty money we have before we go borrow anything else. Plenty money still here in somebody's pocket or underneath the bed someplace, and they need to put it out to let us know what it is that we still have. If you read the amount of monies that were given to us for relief after the volcanic eruption, sorry, rebuilding after Beryl, that is Hurricane Beryl, and you name it. The network of roads that we're supposed to be resurfacing across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am calling on the Prime Minister of this country to tell us where the money is. Tell us where the money is that he and others would have gone abroad to get. And when they sign, we're not grudging anybody for their position, you know. We are saying, you gone over there and you sign, you say, oh, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have been given one, sorry, I beg your pardon, $1.5
That's all right.
billion.
We understand.
Yeah, so that is where our thing is. Let us know what we have, the indebtedness that we have so far, because
your response is that even before you go out to borrow more money,
has to pay back all of those monies. Yes, please.
right?
Sorry.
Even before you go out to borrow and to get loans and grants, you're saying that there's a significant amount of money here in St. Vincent that we need to look for.
We need to look for it.
That has been already borrowed, and your view is that money has not yet been spent.
Absolutely. And one of the things
if you looked at the last weekend, you would see that the government is giving away a lot of that money. 2 years ago in 2022, the government borrowed $10 million. I think it was from the IMF, and bragged, look, we are the only government in the world that borrowed $10 million and give it away. There were thousands of people, I was told, I didn't go to the park, thousands of people in the park who went there to get a debit card so that they can get up to $1,200. And I'm not so sure that maybe that would be the only $1,200 that they get. So they're getting money, but they're giving a lot of it away.
Listen, that is known as small money politics. That is the real politics in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When monies that are given to us or loaned to us as investments, we turn around and we are giving it away. No.
I thought you said some of this money came for hurricane and Beryl relief.
Yes, because it is in the news.
But
it is in the news, and I'm saying, yeah, go ahead.
Stay with me. If you are saying it came for Beryl and volcanic eruption relief, and the government is now giving it away, do you have an opposition to that?
Hold on. In terms of giving those monies, if the money is allocated for Beryl relief, that is something different. But we are talking about investments that are supposed to be within the coffers of this country somewhere.
Right.
Those are two different things. If money is come for burial, obviously. But here is it, that there are a number of persons who are saying because of their political alignment, because of partisan politics, they are not getting any. And then persons within St. Vincent and Grenadines will call out like a neighbor, say, Ducky, there is none, because she not vote for you. There's a case in point. Recently, I heard somebody sharpen the cutlass and challenge the authorities for if they come back for the materials that they were given, then come up, or they come up, you go see Joe. Now, I can't disprove or prove that. But the other thing too is on radio, you're hearing as well, where some persons were given materials and they were taken back.
Right. Well, that's legendary. We
Right.
hear that all the time with Vincentian politics. Politicians give you something and then find out that you didn't vote
But
in
it's
keeping
not
with how they want
theirs.
you to take it
It is
back.
not theirs. It is not theirs. And this is the thing that I am saying. If the resources of this country is our resources, it belongs to all of us, whether or not I vote for yellow, green, or pink.
Right.
The resources of this country belong to all of us.
Here's another question. In a hypothetical scenario where both of the two major parties took 7 seats each, and your party, the National Liberation Movement, takes 1, which of the two
Yeah.
parties are you likely to align with?
Our party deals with governance for the people, by the people. I personally cannot make a decision for my party or the movement to which I belong. And therefore, we will have to sit and decide which is the best option in the interest of the development of our country. And that is going to be key. I can't predict anything, and I should
Very
not.
well. That's
I
reasonable. I
should
think
not.
I think that's a good question. I mean, a good response. What would you say are the major problems confronting St. Vincent today, and how would your National Liberation Movement attempt to solve it or them? If it's a single problem, how do you intend to solve it? If you see it as a number of problems, how do you intend to solve them?
Okay, so that is taken from almost the beginning of our manifesto. Leadership is a problem here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So it's about electing the leader and the team that is best suited to prepare for our country for entry into the new global economic order and to charter a serious economic recovery program to rescue the country from escalating foreign debt repayments. I think we estimated now about $3 billion dollars.
That is correct.
There's no public accounts committee meeting in more than 10 years. We're going to address
But
that.
that's not the government's fault.
I know. While it is not the government's fault, you have an opposition that can't really move beyond. I don't want to call them a toothless bulldog, but they back in and say, okay, this must be done and so on. But they seem not to be able to move the agenda forward so that we're able to get some answers. Public accounts we have to hold our government accountable for all
But
the monies that they borrow.
isn't it correct that they go into parliament and ask questions quite frequently? Each parliamentarian has 3 questions. It means that for the 6 elected parliamentarians and for the 2 senators, that's 8. They can possibly ask 24 questions at each session of parliament. Isn't that so?
It's more. You have to be more than that. You can't just go dress up in jacket and tie and they said, I'm hoping that you guys would listen to me. You've got to go beyond that. Use
In
the
terms of
media.
by doing what? So the National Liberation Movement would not just dress up in jacket and tie and fancy skirts. You would do what besides that kind of work?
We would make the government's representatives, the various ministers who are supposed to sit on that committee. We will call for them to sit on that committee and do more than call. We will pressure them to come and sit at that committee to make sure that they give an account of the funds.
And if they don't come, what will you do?
What do you mean if they don't come in? If they don't come?
Huh?
What do you mean if they don't come? Remember, one of the things that is really happening to us as a people too, is that many of our nationals don't quite get it as to the power that lies in the hands of us as people. So you mobilize people behind you to make sure that these initiatives can happen. The reason why some ministers of government walk up and down and believe that they are our lords, so to speak, is because we surrender our individual abilities to hold them accountable. So we have to. The other thing I'm saying is the growing unemployment is what? Something like over 40%, and poverty levels, weak and sluggish economy, high water and electricity prices, and suffering under that food prices, rising imported food bills at 373.0 million US dollars per year and growing. The import-export ratio gap is 14-1. Public health crisis, increasing of NCDs and sudden death syndrome, COVID-19 mandate. Boy, I tell you.
Are you reading there from your manifesto?
Yes, part of our manifesto. It's not yet
Right.
printed, by the way. Not yet printed.
Understand. So if you're reading from your manifesto, is there one or more things that you would like to do? Okay, parties get elected all over the world and they talk about the first day. I remember when ULP got it in 2001, they talked about the first 100 days.
Yeah, I was a junior
Regional
officer then.
politicians talk about the first. Do you have an idea? Your movement has a plan as to what you might do in the first few days or the first few months if you want to emerge victorious in a electoral contest, whenever it's called?
To have trained people like me was informed this current administration as to how we tackle the issues of unemployment and poverty and all the things that we are now complaining of. And we don't want to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, but
How
our able-bodied,
How do you propose to reinvent the wheel?
Right. Our able-bodied civil servants, following a 150-day plan that we have, and we're not going to throw that out there as yet.
I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to give us 2 or 3 of the major.
Yeah, we do. We
don't believe in this notion that people are going to steal your ideas,
What?
Don't hide your ideas on the basis. I heard some people in the opposition, sometimes they come on voices and they say, no, you can't tell Jomo what you plan to do because the government would steal it.
Right. I hear you. Well, we are new to this whole thing as well, and we have various levels of persons that are strategizing with us. And this whole idea of the claims made publicly, we the people will demand transparency and accountability of state funds and our pension funds. And those are probably some of the earlier things that we will do. We'll call for forensic audit. Somebody say, well, why would you want that? Of course, we have to assess where we are. No house can be built without you first assess exactly what needs to be done and how much money you have to spend. Right. So within that first 150 days, definitely we will sit and assess where we are going. But we have certain pointers already.
In terms of a fundraising tool, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has said it would not follow most of the other islands in CARICOM and do citizenship by investment. The opposition, New Democratic Party, says it's one of its plank that it says once it gets into power, it will institute a citizenship by investment program. What is the view of the National Liberation Movement on the idea of citizenship by investment?
That's a very good question. We are currently in the process of assessing and reassessing the merits and demerits of that. But let me tell you something. When a government could say that they're not encouraging citizenship by investment, that is a falsehood. I'll tell you why. You have what is known as the certificate, the CARICOM skills certificate. We could circumnavigate our claims by that. You have people coming from across any Caribbean country and into St. Vincent and the Grenadines legitimately so to work. We also have persons who I have heard with my own ears, of course, that are given special treatment when it comes to the citizenship by investment program. It is still going on. When you really peel the layers of how we attract certain persons to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you peel the layers and realize that some persons end up with a particular access to our passports, so we can circumnavigate. In the front of it, we are very good. Some leaders are very good to say that, boy, this ain't happening and so on. I want to bring back Dave Ames, who has evaded and avoided how many millions of dollars from this country. And then you have
Dave, I thought Dave Ames was in jail.
Yeah, of course in jail, but
How are
we
you
ain't
gonna bring him
touching him
back?
yet.
How
We
you
ain't
plan to bring
touching
him
him
back?
yet. We have not touched him yet. How much money that he has ripped this government off, ripped off the people of this country.
I know
Billions of dollars.
I know you're just getting in, but do you have any idea as to your party? Do you have any ideas about term limits? Should you get in, would you want to be there, your party, as long as it can win elections, or a particular person as leader? Do you see term limits, 1 term, 2 terms, maybe even lengthening the amount of years that you may have? You know, in some country, in the US, you have 4 years. In Britain, you have 5. In St. Vincent, you have 5. In some places, you have 6 years. Do you have any idea about term limits, or how you might want to do that?
In our discussions in our central committee, we discussed that the leader called, well, I'll use my name, Doris Charles, should not be there for more than 10 years, whether that's 2 consecutive years or, a cumulative 10 years. Because, Brother Jomo, what we realize is this, that no man anywhere has all the answers. And besides, we want to help our nationals to realize this, that they can aspire to the highest political office in the land. The party would have longevity, but the tenure of office of individuals should not be more, especially the leader of the party should not be more than 10 years. And I agree with that because,
Should not be more than 10 years.
No, shouldn't be more than 10 years.
So we're talking about 2 terms, approximately 2 terms.
Yeah, 2 terms.
Right. Here's a question.
If you add 10 years to my current years, come on, I won't be looking like 27 as I normally joke. Sorry, in another 20 years, I wouldn't.
Here's a question from Ariel Ledlow 49. She asked, does Dr. Ferdinand have any experience in mobilizing people for any national issue or cause? As a third party, what does the NLM, the National Liberation Movement, bring differently to the table? What do you bring differently to the table, Dr. Fredericks?
That's a very good question that has been asked of us.
I thought so too. That's why I picked it out of all the others.
Yeah, we bring a no victimization. That's a guarantee. There will be no victimization through us.
How do we hold you to that?
Well, in a performance, in what we say, if you want it in the form of a written something in a charter, but no victimization. Let me tell you something.
The reason why I'm asking you that is that all parties said, look, we're not going to victimize anybody. We are going to be a government of all the people. And the moment they get in, they become a wrecking ball.
Yes, I hear that. I have worked in the civil service.
So I think that's the point that Aria
That
is
she's making, yeah.
trying to get from
I think
you. How are you
it's
going to be
different.
different? What do you bring differently apart from rhetoric? Because rhetoric
Yeah, I
is
know.
can
I hear
easily come
you.
back.
But you're bringing people who are willing to work. We're not just going to be talking, we'll also be working to assist our people to move from this stage to our next stage of what you call it, transformation within our various societies. And I know those are a big set of words, but I want to go back to this whole issue of holding us accountable to victimization, to the no victimization. I want to make the difference. The difference here is this. I have seen, being a member of this, well, this administration, I shouldn't say that, being a member of the public service within this administration. Notice I said before that we have had like probably 90 or 90 something percent good workers. But there are some persons who are like, forgive me for using the term, I'm not calling anyone a square peg in a round hole, but I'm saying their attitude towards work and their level of delivery is questionable. There's a particular worker with whom I've rubbed shoulders years ago, and that could be any place. So, and you ask for a report, it's not done. But every overseas representation that was necessary for her department, it is happening. There was an attempt to move her, to shift her around where her skills would have been better because she was very good at what she's doing. There was an attempt to move her around. And when that reached at a particular level, we had some, some bassa bassa, so to speak, where senior officers were laughed at by her and so on. So I'm saying that when we come to victimization, we are not going to victimize anyone. We're not going to single you out and
No,
hurt you
we
as a
hear that.
result.
We hear that. We hear
So
that.
what we
But
do
you could
is
deep. You could. You,
there are some people who are non-performers. So what we will do is after 3 months or so, if you cannot perform adequately within a particular role, we will assist you based on your qualifications to be repositioned in another field where you can give up your best
in another field
to
in the civil
assist
service.
in another field, yes, because of course all of us are transferable. We are transferable within our various
Yes, I
levels. We're
understand. I understand.
transferable.
Here's a question from Kenny Boucher. Uh, third parties, third parties have not been successful since independence. How does the National Liberation Movement plan to change that?
This is going to be dependent
Well,
on.
in the first place, I think I ought to say that Kenny is not absolutely correct
Mhm,
because Mitchell's party was formed in 75, and by 84,
mhm.
it emerged as the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and won consecutively for 4 terms. So if he's talking strictly after 79, I can't think, I mean, which of the parties we had after 79 that were a major challenge. But his question nonetheless stands. The lack of
And
success for some of these
yeah,
parties.
I take that on board, and I think this is twinned with what somebody else was asking previously. Like everything else, we would have to sit and assess what we are doing as a party, of course. Um, and we believe in coalitions as well. As a matter of fact, we attempted a coalition previous to now, and we were refused. Um, when I say coalition in terms of our efforts, we were refused. And it's not because we were refused that we are where we are today. That is on the brink or on the threshold of our launch, but rather we are looking at the development of our people. So whatever it takes to assist the development of our people, that is where we will be guided. You know. So yeah. I hope that answers his question.
Well, I'll take it for
Hey,
now.
Jimo, we
I
have some WhatsApp here, and we also have some folks trying to who calling trying to get into the program.
Oh yes, if they're trying to call, bring them in.
Okay, so Frank, if you're listening, you can call back. We have someone here asking, how do you intend to deal with the crime situation?
Okay, violence is deeply entrenched in some of our countries here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, yes, and in Latin America. We have had the opportunity to look at a number of suggestions that were given, and I could probably just touch on a few things that we have already discussed. We have to treat violence as a public health concern. Um, we have to focus on hotspots. We have to look at the whole picture. We have to create well-targeted programs, focus on prevention, avoid repressive policies, be proactive in what we do. Don't forget about male violence, but treat females and male violence as the same issue. Move away from the focus on poverty, focus on gun
Move away
control,
from
and
what?
so on. Move away from the focus on poverty. So criminalizing certain areas or groups make it harder for people to actually coexist. And the emphasis on poverty is misleading somewhat. But here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we must continue to prove that as long as the history of studies that we are looking at show that poverty and violence do not have a direct correlation. That's debatable, eh? So, but we can also
You don't
focus
think
on
there's a
overcoming.
correlation between crime and poverty?
Yeah, yeah, but the history, the history of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I don't know if all our facts that we have gathered are actually giving a direct bearing on this, but we will look at it again. So overcoming extreme poverty and becoming more violent. So it's now part of our job to look beyond those solutions and what other factors may be driving those rates. Focus on gun control, understand that violence is going viral so that
But
cyberspace is now.
how do you intend to, when you say focus on gun control, how do you intend to do that? Because that's an articulation of a view, focus on gun control. You hear the police of St. Vincent and the Grenadines did an amnesty recently where they tried to do gun control. They got
Mhm.
19 guns off the street, at least that's what they said. They got some ammunition off, but
Listen,
that has not
when
stopped. That has not caused um, a lessening of the gun violence. I mean, we saw somebody was shot and killed tonight, which took
that
our
is what I,
homicide,
yeah, that is what somebody
which
said to
took
me.
our homicide rate now to 51, and we are
Yes.
clearly pushing up on 55, which where we got last time. So
So here is the emphasis.
the mere statement
Yeah.
that you would do gun control,
Gun
um,
control, not eradication, but focus on it.
I understand
Where
that.
we,
I understand
yeah,
that.
where we try, which we're going to try, we have to try to stem the flow of illegal guns in St.
Do you
Vincent
think
and
that the
Grenadines.
government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is trying to stem the flow of illegal drugs and guns?
That's a very nice question to ask. Um, we are seeing more and more incidents of, well, guns just appearing. All and I've sat recently and I was being given a lesson on the way in which guns come into St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Um, and as I said, the emphasis on we haven't lost the battle on gun violence. We haven't. But we have to keep in mind this whole impact of drugs. We have to target inequality. We have to be aware of the link between organized crime and terrorism. We have to see violence as our priority, raise awareness of impoverished explosive devices improvised, improvised, not impoverished, improvised explosive devices, the use of nonviolent language, and so on. And we be smart about what we do and with whom we do what we do. And
Right.
I keep saying this, we have not lost the battle on controlling gun violence or violence by gun. And this whole thing about educating the population more, and I know it's going to be a difficult situation, but then we also have to include home, the school, and the church in a sort of tripartite approach towards what we must do in order to stem this tide. So yeah, and it's really a sensitive issue, but it's an issue nonetheless that we can actually sit and continue with our not just debates, but whatever, do a SWOT analysis on that, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, that the findings that's coming out of all of that can help us to determine, what we do with this particular area.
Right.
It's not lost. It's not lost at all. We are,
Yeah,
otherwise everybody
I agree with you.
everybody think this would have been dead. Yeah.
I don't think that we have gotten to the end of the game on crime.
No, you're not. You're not. Yeah, we have not, I should say.
What do you what does your movement, the National Liberation Movement, think about? How do you intend to approach issues of poverty? It is said that 4 out of every 10 persons in St. Vincent live in poverty. I don't know if you share those numbers, and
Yeah,
if you
we
don't,
do. We
so
do.
okay, so how do you have a plan, perspective as to how we can get out of that situation?
Well, we have snapshot of easing the pressure on the cost of living. We have a snapshot on what we will do with energy and energy consumption. We have a snapshot on what we will do with education. And it is this whole issue of poverty is larger than we can really understand, because there are so many factors that
The
are
problem is larger than we can understand, you're saying?
no, not larger than you can understand, larger than we are right now prepared, the current administration is prepared to accept. But it is going to be a challenge for us, and we want our people, our fellow Vincentians, to understand this, that it is together we will combat the whole issue of poverty and crime. We have a master plan. We talk about political governance. We have our economic strategy that is based on promoting a green and blue economy. And that's the heart of the policy, making numerous new and innovative job opportunities and long-term security. Emphasis will be placed on private sector-led growth and a cooperative model based on collective ownership and sharing. The marine resources, there is at least 10,000 square miles of seawater surrounding our island, and an LLM government will explore earliest possibilities for a number of industries. A vibrant deep sea fishing sector to enable locals to access cheaper, healthier sources of protein. Fish
How are you gonna fund
processing,
that? How are you gonna fund that?
fish, should I say that besides all the assessments that we have done, we are also aligned with some wealthy financiers. And I know they make promises. So yeah, we are where we are in terms of laying a groundwork and making these issues known to those with whom we are aligned.
I see.
Fish processing and canning facilities, a bulk tanker water export industry, expanded CMOS industry in the northern and southern Grenadines, the natural sea salt and aquaculture farms. And there are a number of other things that we we will articulate as the time approaches, you know. Yeah, but as you say, everything takes time, and we are urging
Absolutely.
our nationals to think beyond what we now have. And I know we have had several governments before, and there were challenges in terms of the national economic, social development plans here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. But we are seeing that together we will. Our shift in mindset is also critical because when the NLM gets into power, it is all hands on deck. This dependency syndrome for some persons, we have to train or retrain or teach our nationals that you give me a fish today, but if you teach me to fish, I become independent and be able to fish for a lifetime. And I want us to understand that, yes, as my stepfather used to say, education is the way out of poverty. But it's not just that, it is the way
Is it the
we
way out
use.
or the best guarantor? Because you can be educated and still don't get out of poverty.
I was just going to say the way we use what we have learned. I always say this. I am so proud of our Vincentian nationals. Hundreds and thousands of them are outside. So this link with the diaspora is also going to be critical. We have the regional integration diaspora unit. They put on a plan the other day that has not had its full, how do you call it, the fullness of that plan. It fell short. I want to challenge us that we can use this opportunity again to develop the reach to our nationals out there to sort of like meet our needs here in St. Vincent, the skills I should say that exist for many of our nationals there to meet these skills here. We have people willing and ready within the region and beyond. Sorry, I beg your pardon. And they have been calling me to say we are ready and willing to assist and to bring resources with them to
Right.
assist us to combat
Um,
crime and all
you,
of
you,
that.
you,
Yeah.
you have an ally. You have an ally in Marilyn Valentine. Valentine. She's wishing you the very best.
Thank you very much.
Um,
Yes. Thank you
Patricia
very much,
Patricia
Marian.
Valentine
Yes.
is asking you to be wary of wealthy financiers. You said you had a lot of wealthy financiers because they
Yes.
usually want me a pound of flesh.
Yes. I hear you. And I want to thank her very much for her advice. Yes.
Leon Snag wants to know if you have any insights on debt reduction strategy. You did say we are about $3 billion. Any insights as to how we can get that debt down?
We have according to the St. Vincent and Grenadines World Trade Organization Trade Policy Review. Their documents the analysis about imports and exports and all of that. $361 million in 2014 to 373 million in 2021. Exports declined from 48 million US in 2014 to 34 million in 2021. We remain a net food importer with at least 80% of the food locally consumed is imported. So, imports account for 20% of total imports each year. And that is what the information on our technical team has fed us.
Right.
Look, the agriculture is the backbone of the economy. That's number one. Number two, we have economists here in St. Vincent and Grenadines who I am sure have their first allegiance is to the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I know for a fact within the public service, they will do their best to assist with redeveloping or realigning an economic policy that will be best suited for us. But
But how
here's
does
the
that
thing.
how does that policy? Remember, you're responding to the question from Mr. Snag.
Yes, I'm
Insights
hearing.
into debt reduction. So how does that what you just said offer insight into debt reduction?
Our debt reduction from the standpoint of let me say one does full basket, so to speak. Yes. Um, Let me shift from the economic policy to the policy on agriculture
No,
that
I
will
want you to,
assist.
I want you
That
to,
will
I want you
assist.
to stay with, I want you to answer Leon's
Mhm,
question about debt reduction. Any insights as to how
mhm.
you might do that? I don't want you to jump around too much.
No, I don't want to jump around too much either. But the thing about it is that we have a committee on that, right? Um, and that committee is still assessing a number of things in terms of reducing spending, avoiding accumulating new debts, and so on. Some of this information, of course, we are following from what we have gleaned from other studies, paying off the highest interest rate debt first, finding ways to reduce our interest rate, consider consolidation of loans, and so on. And which brings me back to another point, which I'm saying that we need actually to have an assessment as to what is it that we as a country are owing to those who would have lent us or given us investment fund. So yeah,
Right.
we do have that particular
Here's a
point.
question as it relates to education. Ari Ledlow 49. Rather insightful questions, Ari and Desiree. This is not to say the others are not, but I'm just impressed with the kind of questions you ask. Ari Ledlow 49 says, it has been touted that an education revolution is at work. What is Dr. Frederick's opinion? And can she mention at least one initiative the National Liberation Movement will implement as it pertains to education?
You know, what I have picked up over the years is this, that we jump and we say that the education revolution has produced X or Y, but the levels of literacy that we recognize here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is something else. There was a young man that I was teaching recently. He has a one in whatever subject area, and he couldn't read, but he would have gone through the entire process, got a one in that subject area. And I can't understand that.
He couldn't read and he got a one,
He got a one.
and couldn't read.
He could not read.
He got a one in which subject?
I'll give away the whole thing here, boy. You know, me have to be
Because
very careful now.
I don't see how you get a one if you cannot read in any subject. But that's
Thank
an
you.
issue for another day.
Thank you. But the issue is that giving him simple books to read was a difficulty because you know I do little community work and so on there.
Yes.
Um, there is a literacy survey which has to become an imperative. We are investing in education to build a skilled workforce with practical, marketable lifetime skills that drive innovation and growth across various sectors. And there's need for what we call a continuous pool of highly trained citizens with TVET skills. We talk about upgrading and strengthening the sector skills development agency for delivery of competence-based technical vocational training at 5 centers in construction, trade, agriculture, marine, and tourism sector. We talk about establishing sector advisory boards to adapt industry and occupational standards to meet needs based on current market trends, encourage public-private partnership arrangements to manage training facilities and so on, and to review and revamp the educational system to make greater use of ICT as a means of training delivery in a digital age, to review the curriculum, to integrate national nutritional education and agriculture science at nursery and primary school levels, and to give special attention to those dropouts, the school dropouts, and persons with disabilities, you know, and political science to be included, of course, as part of the school curriculum. But I go back to this whole issue of a literacy survey that has to be done. I think the last one, I'm subject to correction, the last one was done in 2001, I think, something, 2001, 2002. And I think it is from that help us to sort of reshape our thinking. And that's why we were motivated to jump on the bandwagon within the OCS to talk about this education revolution. But we have to go beyond that. You know, giving a child a laptop or giving a family access to the internet, then what? You know, so we have got to, and then we have our young people, a lot of them who would not dare put their fingers in agriculture, in the soil. Let me tell you something. When we live home with mommy and daddy, we have to make sure, and those are my stepfather and son up in the village. I go in high school 40 years ago, they just give me, thank you, girls. Thank you, girls. They gave me a certificate recently for teaching because I was one of the first girls from the village who went back to teach. The point is that we had to put our hands in the dirt. We had to put our hands and a sense of
So
appreciation
you're
about
gonna take
agriculture.
the students back to putting their hands in the dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That has to start. That
let's
has to
segue
start.
from that to another question.
Yes, please.
Mark Doyle is asking, with the limited resources that we know we have here in St. Vincent, how would you just diversify the economy out beyond tourism and agriculture?
That has been an interesting discussion that we have had as well. Not just tourism and agriculture, but we have other sectors of the economy that has to be taken care of.
I think the point that Mr. Doyle is making, that those are the two big areas in the Vincentian
Yes,
economy. There was a
yes.
time when it was overwhelmingly agriculture, and a clear turn, a sharp turn has been made, let's say beginning in the late 80s, early 90s, to tourism. So we hear that tourism is the driver of our economy now. So I think Mr. Doyle is asking you, how do you diversify from that? From tourism and agriculture?
You can diversify away from. You've got to incorporate those aspects into the whole concept of national development, because you have tourism, you have agriculture, but you also have health, you have the environment, you have the social aspect of things. Yeah.
I think what Mr. Doyle is getting at as a generator of the gross domestic product. A lot of the money that we gain locally come from tourism and agriculture. Yeah, we
Right.
have an economy, it deals with security, health, education, whatever else. But I don't think that's where he's going. And I hope I am interpreting him correctly. He's saying the two main drivers now are tourism and less so agriculture. And
Okay.
he envisages a further diversification. He's asking, how might you do that? Or
What we recognize is that we had a project some years ago. Somebody came up with this thing that we must do what he knows as the CBTs, Caribbean-based, community-based tourism. And they missed out on the all-important aspect of agriculture. And again, I remember Shaka and others made that input about the fact that you can't get away, you cannot diversify without taking on board that agriculture is a mainstay of our economy. So to talk
is
about
it? Is agriculture the mainstay of the economy now? And if so, how so, in your mind?
the agri sector comprises 7% of GDP and 20%, 26% of the labor force. That is what we were told.
So why then, with those numbers, why do you say it's the mainstay of the economy?
The sector faces serious disempowerment and non-empowerment.
I'm asking you, if you just said
Wait. So what we are saying,
Dr. Frederick, hold on. You just postulated that agriculture is the mainstay of the economy, and you told us
should be the mainstay. Let me go back on that. Should be the mainstay of our economy. instead of
Why?
saying,
Why?
okay,
Why?
here is what we say. We had something like in 2021 estimated that the country had something like 39,000 hectares of land, but only 7,000 are currently being used for agriculture. Given our priority on tourism for the construction of hotels and low-income housing settlements on prime agricultural lands, and because that takes precedence. Now, in light of the above, our database about the sector is limited, and non-disaggregated by gender and family farm holdings. So there are no current reliable statistics on land use trends, women in agriculture and family farms for informed policy and
You're not, you're
decision
not,
making.
you're not, you're not answering Mr. Doyle's question, though. You are
I,
reading from
I,
your
I am going
manifesto.
about it. I'm going about it in a roundabout way. So we have to increase our use of the
Yeah, but,
land.
but this
That,
is
that
not
is,
we are not here having a seminar. We are
I
having an
know we are.
interview.
I know we are not. And I don't have all the answers, save
I'm
and
not
except to
asking you to
say,
have all of the answers, but you could tell Mr. Doyle you don't have all the answers.
yes. But the thing about it is that we have technocrats, we have persons who are retired, who are supportive of our agenda, who are willing to come on board once we are elected to be able to sit and say with us that here is a policy decision that should be taken on board. Because you see, we are an evolving movement, a liberation movement that will draw on persons like Mr. Hector's input and others, so that we make of St. Vincent and the Grenadines a place where we can live in peace and harmony. So we are revolving. We are
Yes.
revolving.
Now,
Hey, Jomo, before you, we have a caller.
yes, let's take the caller. Caller, good evening. It's time for your voice. You are on with Dr. Doris Frederick. She's the leader of the National Liberation Movement.
Yeah, good night, good night, good night to each and everyone.
Good night.
Yes, good night.
Yeah, generally to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The rest of the world.
We are coming to the end. We only have 15 more minutes, sir, so try to get to the point.
Right. So let me make it sharp and I will listen after the year.
Very well.
I think it need agricultural sort of revolution.
Correct. I agree with you.
Yeah, I do think so, brave. So the agriculture works now could develop in a certain way. And everybody could put a hand and like prepare for future generation, something more like that. Agriculture could bring a lot of happiness, can feed ourselves, we could have a lot of input and income from it.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. So that's my input on that.
All right, sir. Thank you.
I think it needs agricultural revolution to make people more aware of this kind of certain swings for liberty and just to balance things. Yeah, like.
Dr. Frederick, in light of what thank you, caller. In light of what the
Yes,
caller
thank you
says
very
about
much.
agriculture needing an agricultural revolution, there's a lot of talk these days about food security. Where does your organization, the National Liberation Movement, come in on the issue of food security?
Well, we have had extensive discussions, not just locally, but also with abroad, with folks from abroad. This one of the issues that was raised is seeds, our indigenous seeds, and emphasis is placed on getting various seed banks to make sure that our seeds are not taken outside of or destroyed basically without us having
Which of these
that,
seeds? Which of these seeds are you saying that are indigenous?
based on our North Windward contingent. They have a list of those seeds. I must tell you the honest truth that I have not looked at all of them. but they have a list of those seeds that they claim are that are indigenous to us. One of the plants, this is not no seed, but one of the plants that they talk about was scythe. They said that there is a variety of scythe that came in some years ago, and that particular scythe is, they call it what, fat leaf, as opposed to those that had a very, very fine construction. We
But
have
how does the indigenous seed go towards assisting us with food security?
you have got to make sure you secure your seeds for another crop. You can't eat off everything. Putting a common sense approach, you can't eat off everything one time. What you're saying to us is that we should revive rural communities and transform their unique service offerings to provide fiscal incentives to open up to new job opportunities, fruit, forest, natural farming, and juices, fruit juice factories, dehydrated products, herbs, and spices. In the area of herbs and spices, we also have a contingent coming out from, I should say, America, the United States, that said, Vincent Shannon, that said that they are willing to input some funds and also some techniques as to produce, products that would be guaranteed, offer guaranteed markets for the produce that we produce here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, producing a new green, export-oriented, natural farming industry. And again, as I'm saying, is that I'm working with several committees that are saying they are responsible for this area or they are not responsible for whatever area. And that information, while we can't give away all the tidbits of information as to how we will do these, we have committees that are willing to work. And where
Understood.
committees are just 2 or 3 persons, we have persons abroad and here in St. Vincent who are willing to come on board. Together we will. Once together we will form out.
Have you given any thought to climate change? Is climate change a real concern to the National Liberation Movement?
I think I've mentioned just briefly about the environment. And let me see if I could pull up that bit of information. But yes, we have given thought to that. And what we are saying is that, again, another committee, as I say, we are working with various committees, the Environment Nationwide Clearing Up campaigns to protect and preserve our environment, to plant more trees, to protect watersheds and freshwater sources, to enforce a land management program to protect the forest cover and significantly reduce floods and landslides during heavy rainfalls and hurricane season, to review the land use policy to allocate more prime lands to farming and food production, to implement a recycling scheme to recycle plastic, glass, cans, paper, and other materials, and so on. So yes, built into all of this, when we flesh this out, we will definitely be attacking, I don't want to use the word attacking, but addressing the issue of our climate change agenda. And of course, this is in keeping with the United Nations written output on this particular initiative.
Right. Dr. Frederick, I apologize to you, but I've been calling you Dr. Frederick throughout this session, but I did not give you a chance to elaborate on in what area are you a doctor? Are you a medical doctor? Do you have a PhD in something else?
I have a PhD in law.
In law?
Yes.
But you don't practice law.
Not as yet, because as you know, there are persons like us who would have pursued the academic side of things. So I have not been called to the bar like my children or yourself, and therefore I mean.
Do you intend to be called to the bar of St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Yes, I am in the process. You're making me let out everything, man. Yeah, I am doing what is known. Yeah, I'm doing what is known as some conversion courses right now with
Oh, sweet. Nice,
Leeds
nice.
Beckett Leeds Beckett University. So yes,
Right,
and
right.
yeah,
Jimo, we have a
yes.
WhatsApp question.
Yes.
The question is, what do you know about the bicycle as a party symbol?
What?
What
Interesting.
do you,
What
yeah,
do you know about a bicycle? I thought
as
it
a
was
party.
just a symbol. Is there something significant about a bicycle?
Well, let me give you the 10 points now. I'm not elaborating on them. Sustainability and
No, no,
environmental.
no, no. The question he's asking,
Yeah.
I'll, you still have 8 minutes. I'll give you time to talk about 10 points. But he's asking that
Okay.
somebody want to find out what do you know about the bicycle as a symbol.
Well, as I had said before,
There were two of them,
um,
right? There were two left. He said.
sorry, there were two.
I thought he said there were two symbols left, and you chose the there was the
Yeah, yeah,
car
yeah, yeah. Committed
and the bicycle.
symbols. Part
So
a
you chose the
symbol
car.
for candidates representing political parties. This is
Right,
from the RPA, Representation of the People's Act in the schedule
right.
format. So we chose that. We
Yes,
decided to choose that. And then we were instructed or advised that there are 7 main things that we can actually use the bicycle for. It symbolizes a commitment to eco friendly policies, clean energy, and sustainable development, advocating for a greener future. That comes under the remit of sustainability and environmental responsibility. But you see them big words that we really like to talk because our grandmother who's sitting someplace to really understand what I'm saying. Movement and progress. Yes, movement and progress. It represents a continuous forward movement, suggesting that the party is progressive, it's adaptable. I shouldn't say party, but movement. The movement is progressive, adaptable, dedicated to driving positive societal change. There's a sense of balance, as the third one, balance and stability. Riding that bicycle requires balance, symbolizing our movement's focus on maintaining economic, social, and political equilibrium in the country, empowerment and self-reliance. This bicycle is powered by individual effort and can symbolize self-reliance, encouraging citizens to take initiatives and responsibility for their own future. Um, Accessibility and inclusivity. Big words again. Vote for the bicycle says that we are affordable, accessible to people from all walks of life, as opposed to the car, reflecting our movement's commitment to be inclusive and policies that benefit the general population. The sixth point is simple and efficient. So it basically represents a desire for a sort of like a straightforward, efficient governance that avoids a whole set of unnecessary complexity in public policies. Community and connection, it encourages interaction and a sense of community, symbolizing our movement's goal of fostering social unity, collective well-being, and interconnectedness, bringing us
right,
together. Yeah, healthy living and well-being. It's associated with physical health and wellness, symbolizing our movement's platform that promotes public health, fitness, and preventive care initiatives. Get on a
right.
bicycle and ride all over the place.
Yeah.
The next one, freedom and mobility provides personal freedom
Oh,
and
that's good. So
flexibility.
we get a feel up for
And
the
so,
bicycle.
yeah,
I want to
and
ask you
local
though.
focus and urban development. Yes,
I
that's
want
the
to
last
ask you.
one.
And there's a question that's coming from your audience. How do you plan to handle skepticism or criticism from the public or other political entities such as the ULP? There's
Already.
rejected that.
Yes, already you're having skepticism, already you're having all sorts of things being thrown at me, especially because, you know, the head is seen above everybody else. You know, you walk in a crowd, they point you out as the head. Listen, everybody has a right to say what they want to say. They do. You know, everybody has a right. So I'm not going to be beating up on somebody to say, okay, why did they say that? You have a right to say what you want to say. Is it reflective of who I am as an individual? No. And really and truly, I am too old really to be bothered with what a number of persons would have to say. that maybe
So
saying that,
basically, for you,
yeah.
the criticism, the public criticism is dust on the shirt. As Jay-Z
Yeah,
said.
and as a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, brother Jomo, it is actually manure for my growth. You see what I'm
Man,
saying?
yo, I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's manure for my growth.
You did
That is
say,
how I
you
have.
did
That
say,
is how I
we have
have
like about
grown.
3 more minutes. You did say that there were 10 policy ideas that you wanted to articulate.
10 policy. No, this had to do with the whole issue of understanding what the bicycle was all about. So I think I have
Oh, okay.
mentioned.
No, I think you
I
have
think,
given us
yeah,
sufficient of
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
question, you are the leader of this national liberation movement?
Yes, please. I was
You are the
asked to
leader.
be. Yes, I was asked to be told.
You're the political leader. And
Yes.
do you care to tell us any of your other leaders? Any of the other
I
persons?
see.
And you want us
I see
to wait?
you're trying to pull a little lasso around me foot there.
No, no, no.
let's
I am a journalist by
let's
training, ma'am. I'm asking you the questions that other people might
all
want
right.
to know.
Okay, let's wait until that day when we launch. We can't give away everything,
Sure.
on the media here. Yeah.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna push you on that. You can hold it. You can hold it for that day. That day is
Yeah,
rapidly
yeah,
approaching.
yeah. But you
We-
will
we-
at least you would know some of our other leaders and the constituencies to which which they represent. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay, that's good to hear that.
yeah.
Um, you did say you plan to run you contest in a number of
Sorry.
different areas. Um, which of the two political parties, the governing Unity Labour Party or the opposition New Democratic Party, which of them you think you are? Do you well? I'll ask this way: do you think that you are politically or philosophically closer to either of them?
That's a very interesting question. Um, I'll tell you what. When I started in this whole political milieu, I was first. I voted first as for the NDP, and then I voted for the ULP, and then I voted for the NDP, and then the ULP. My whole orientation toward partisan politics wasn't so much about the party per se, but rather what policies that were good for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So that's why for some years, some people couldn't track me. They wanted to know, well, okay, who's you voting for this side? My thing about it is that the advice I'll give to any person is that judge the movement, as in our case, or the party along policy lines. Because when you jump on a bandwagon and you say, vote me party, hold me party, the party is before that. If the party loses or you become disenfranchised, if the party is going down the drain with certain policies that hurt your brothers and sisters in this community, you have a tendency not to show, well, oh Lord, yes, it's true, but because you're loyal to the party over us as Vincentians, then people look at us as being real difficult. So I'm saying I am not loyal to a particular previous party, but rather to the policies that they had at the time. I
Very well.
hope that answers.
Dr. Pleasure, I want to
Yes,
thank
please.
you very, very much. We're at the top of the hour, and
Yes.
as a lawyer, I hate to go on illegally. So I want to
Okay.
thank you for coming on. I think you made a very, very credible and creditable exposition of who you are and what your party is and what you believe in. We expect to hear much more from you. And
Yes.
you said your launch is next week. I'm sorry. You said your launch is next week. I'm sure a lot of people would be listening on for that and looking to hear more from you in the future. I want to
Yes.
wish you all the best.
Thank you very
People
much.
remember. In fact, when I did this, I thought that we would probably do the first hour. I did advertise it and say we'll do the first hour, but
Yes.
you started so strongly. I couldn't rob you of an opportunity to to play all your shots and to impress our audience and the listeners. So thank you so much for being such a good guest tonight. Those of you who called, I want you to thank you for calling. Those of you who sent your comments, your questions, I want to thank you even more. There's so many things that you could have done. You stayed with us for 2 hours and 2 minutes. Remember, read, pay close attention, because what you don't know can kill you. Until next week, when we have an interview with Louis Mitchell, this is Jomo Thomas saying good night from Voices.
Thank you, and God bless.
BFM 99.9 presents Voices, a talk show that's not just new, it's phenomenal. Voices, it's interactive and thought-provokingly different. Voices,